Until now, we dealt with the following topics from Tatva Bodha, namely Sadhana Chatushtayam, the fourfold qualifications, then Shariratrayam, the threefold body, then Avasthatrayam, threefold states of experience, and finally Panchakoshaha or Kosha Panchakam, the fivefold personality layers of an individual. And we also saw that Shariratrayam and Kosha Panchakam both refer to the same personality alone. The Shariratrayam itself, looked from another angle, is called Kosha Panchakam. So Shariratrayam and Kosha Panchakam are practically one and the same. The same personality is divided from two different norms of division. Today, we will go to the next and important topic of Tattva Bodha, namely Atma, which they translate in English as self with capital S. Some people translate it as soul, but I would like to avoid that translation because it can create confusion. The word soul is used in different meanings in different contexts. And also the spelling may create confusion. We may write S-O-L-E and get into problem. So we will avoid the word soul. I will use the word Atma. In some books they write Atman. Whether it is Atman or Atma, both are the same. Today we will study this topic. From the previous topics, we come to know that all the three bodies, Shariratrayam, are made up of matter. If you remember our past discussion, we said the gross body is made out of the gross elements, Pancha Bhutani, and since all the five elements are matter only, the gross body is made up of matter and therefore it is material in nature. Material meaning a product of matter. In Sanskrit, we can translate matter as bhutam and material as bhautikam. The sthula shariram is pancha bhautikam, material in nature. And similarly, we saw the sukshma shariram or subtle body, that is also made up of five subtle elements only. Only difference is Sukshma Shariram is made out of subtle elements, but that is also Pancha Bhautikam and therefore material in nature. So gross body is material, subtle body is material, Pancha Bhautikam. And similarly, we saw causal body is also nothing but the subtlest form of matter only. because causal body is only the seed form of gross and subtle bodies. So, before the gross and subtle bodies are generated, they should exist in potential form by the law of conservation of matter and energy, and therefore before Srishti, the gross and subtle body must have existed in potential form. That potential gross subtle bodies is called causal body. Therefore, causal body also must be what? Potential matter only. Therefore, Karana Shariram is also material. So, what we arrive at is Shariratrayam is material in nature. In Sanskrit, Jadam, matter is called Jadam. And once we understand that the three Sharirams are Jadam, we have to derive certain important corollaries. What is that? Any matter or material is inert in nature. Any matter or material is inert in nature. And what do you mean by inert in nature? According to Vedanta Shastra, the definition of inertness is that which doesn't have consciousness. Definition of inertness: that which doesn't have consciousness and that which cannot produce consciousness. Rendu important. That which doesn't have consciousness and that which cannot produce consciousness. In Sanskrit we say it is neither Chaitanya Gunakam nor Chaitanya Janakam. Chaitanya Gunakamum kadayadu, Chaitanya Janakamum kadayadu. It is not Chaitanya Gunakam means it doesn't have consciousness of its own, and it is not Chaitanya Janakam means what? It cannot produce consciousness also. It cannot generate consciousness also. And since Shariratrayam is Jadam, material in nature, it doesn't have consciousness, it doesn't produce consciousness. And therefore, according to Shastra, all the three Sharirams by nature are insentient. All the three Sharirams by their intrinsic nature are inert, non-conscious or insentient in nature. Which means not only the body is inert and insentient, according to Shastra, the mind also being part of which Shariram? Mind. Mind being part of Sukshma Shariram, mind also is inert matter and therefore insentient. So, according to Vedanta, mind doesn't have its own consciousness. Mind cannot produce consciousness also. What about Karana Shariram? Ide Kadada. So, all the three bodies are intrinsically insentient. Kasmat bhautikatvat. So, shariratrayam jadam bhautikatvat ghatavat. இருக்கவே இருக்கு நம்ம லாஜிக். சரீரத்ரயம் ஜடம் பௌதிகத்வாத் घटवत्. This is the corollary we get from the study of three bodies. But even though this is the logical corollary, we find our experience is otherwise. Our experience is otherwise. Otherwise means otherwise. Even though the three bodies must be insentient logically, I experience the three bodies as sentient ones. Chetana sthula shariram. I experience body as a conscious body, conscious of the surroundings, conscious of the mosquito bite, conscious of the temperature. Similarly, I experience the mind also as very much sentient. In short, shariratrayam is experienced as sentient one. But logically, shariratrayam must be insentient one. Now, how do you reconcile these two? Logically, shariratrayam is insentient. Experientially, shariratrayam is sentient. Then how do you resolve this seeming contradiction? Vedanta Shastra says this is possible. Suppose you know a person is extremely poor and he comes to a particular function with lot of ornaments. You know he doesn't have a single pie. He comes with coat, boot, suit and ornaments. What will you say? Do you require a PhD to arrive at? If he doesn't have his own and if he is still wearing them, they must be borrowed one. Very simple. A person is naturally ugly. Now he looks wonderful because of what? Made up beauty. It's called makeup. So very simple. In the same way, the Shastram points out, Shariratrayam doesn't have Swabhavika Chaitanyam. It doesn't have natural consciousness, and therefore they have Agantuka Chaitanyam, borrowed consciousness. And with borrowed consciousness, these three sharirams is strutting like peacock very proudly. Otherwise, there is no difference between the statue in Marina and our physical body. That is also made up of chemicals, and this body is also made up of chemicals. From the Shastric angle, we say Panchabhutas. From scientific angle, we say body is made up of chemicals, biochemistry. But how come that bundle of chemicals is inert and this bundle of chemicals is sentient? The only reason must be what? These enjoy borrowed consciousness. So what are the stages of development? First we said Shariratrayam Bhautikam, and therefore Shariratrayam Jadam, and they appear as though sentient, and therefore Shariratrayam has borrowed consciousness. இதுவரை அழகா போயிருக்கோம். Continuing further, if Shariratrayam can borrow consciousness, borrowing is possible only when only when there is a lender. Dena bank சொன்னாலோ Dena, because we are all Lena banks, therefore we require a Dena bank. So we require a consciousness Dena bank which has to lend the consciousness. And this lender of consciousness is the fourth factor in human personality. This lender of consciousness is the fourth factor in the human personality. What are the other three factors? Sthula Shariram, factor 1. Sukshma Shariram, factor 2. Karana Shariram, factor 3. Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktaha. Other than these three, Tatva Bodhata மனசில் வச்சுண்டு தான் பேசுகிறேங்கிறதுக்காக கோட் பண்ணேன். ஸ்தூல சூக்ஷ்ம காரண ஷரீராத் வதிரிக்தஹா. Other than these three, there is a fourth factor which is the lender of consciousness. Now the question is, what is that factor? Who is the lender of that consciousness? We say Atma. So Atma is the fourth factor in human personality, which is the lender of consciousness to the first three factors, that is Shariratrayam. Therefore we can say Atma makes Shariratrayam aglow with consciousness. Atma makes Shariratrayam alive with consciousness. Atma makes Shariratrayam sentient with consciousness. If I have to give some nearest comparison, just as the electricity makes the bulb aglow with light or brilliance, because the bulb cannot glow by itself. The filament cannot glow by itself. Therefore, other than the bulb and the filament, there is another principle called electricity, which makes the filament glow first, and through the filament, it makes the bulb also brilliant. But the only thing is, the electricity part is invisible. The electricity part is invisible. The glowing filament and bulb alone are visible. So thus, the visible bulb and filament are made glowing because of the invisible electricity blessing this bulb. Similarly, here so many bulbs are sitting, some of them really bulb, because bulbs are of different Sciences. சின்னது பெட்ரூம் பல்ப் இருக்கு, டார்ச் லைட் பல்ப் இருக்கு, பிக் பல்ப் இருக்கு, எல்லா சைஸும் இருக்கு. And all these bulbs of different sizes and shapes, the longish one, roundish one, flattish one, all these bulbs are aglow with life, brilliant with life, because of the invisible principle called Atma. Now we have to find out what is the nature of this Atma, the blessing principle. In fact, this is how one of the famous Upanishads, Kenopanishad, begins. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha, kena pranah prathamah praiti yuktaha, keneshitam vachamimam vadanti, chakshushrottram kau devo yunakti. Hey Guru, how does this bulb shine? Because of which principle? Kau devaha. In Kenopanishad, Atma is called Devaha. Now we will see the important features of Atma. Now the first feature of Atma is Atma Chaitanya Swarupaha. Atma is of the nature of consciousness itself. It is a non-material principle. It is a non-material principle. Why do we say so? Because if Atma is also another matter, what will happen? Can you guess? If Atma is also another matter, like the three sharirams, then what will happen? Atma also will be jadam, and Atma will have to borrow consciousness from another principle. So you will find a borrower borrowing from another one. Like India borrowing from America and lending to Vietnam. I think Prime Minister Vietnam. So the original lender must be a non-borrower. Correct? The original lender must be a non-borrower. A borrowing lender is not original lender. Therefore, Atma being the original lender, Atma should not be borrowing consciousness from elsewhere. That means Atma should be non-material in nature. That's why in English they use the word spirit. As opposed to matter, Atma is said to be spiritual in nature. It is spirit. But I avoid the word spirit because I am not sure whether you will take in the right spirit. And you may take some other methylated or ethylated spirit. Therefore, I avoid the word. Alcohol is called spirit. Methyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol. Science students know. So therefore, what is the first feature of Atma? Atma is the non-material principle, spiritual principle of the nature of consciousness, Chaitanya Swarupaha or Chidrupaha. So this word you would have heard in prayer verses and all. These words are introduced. Chidrupi, Paradevata Bhagavati Sri Rajarajeshwari Chidrupi. Then what is the next feature? Atma Swatantraha. Atma is Swatantraha. It is an independent principle because it is of the nature of consciousness which is not dependent on matter for its production or existence. So consciousness does not depend on matter for its existence also, for its production also. Are you able to get at it? Previously I said, matter does not have consciousness. If matter has consciousness, then consciousness will depend on matter. If matter produces consciousness, then also consciousness will depend on matter. Since consciousness does not belong to matter and is not produced by matter, consciousness is an independent entity, does not depend on matter either for production or existence. In Sanskrit, Swatantraha, independent principle. Then what is the third feature? What is the first one? Chaitanya Swarupaha. Second one is Swatantraha, independent entity. Then what is the third feature of Atma, the consciousness principle? Since Atma is non-material in nature, it does not have any of the attributes belonging to matter. Since Atma is non-material in nature, it doesn't have any attributes which belong to matter. In fact, whatever attribute you know, they are all material attributes, either perceived directly by our eyes or perceived with various instruments. All attributes we know belong to matter. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. They belong to the 5 elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. The 5 elements and the 5 elementals, that is their product. They have got all the attributes like Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. And Atma is free from all these attributes. And therefore, Atma Nirgunaha. It is attributeless. It is property free. That is the third feature. Then the fourth feature is, since Atma does not depend upon matter or Shariratrayam for its existence or production, even when matter perishes or collapses, even when matter perishes or collapses, Atma, the consciousness principle, continues to survive. Just as the electricity continues to survive even after the filament is destroyed, even after the bulb is destroyed, electricity is there. But you don't feel the glow of the bulb. It's not because electricity is absent, but the bulb is fused, filament is gone. If you have any doubt, put your finger, immediate moksha, direct realization of electricity. So therefore, non-manifestation of electricity in the form of light is not non-existence of electricity. Because bulb is destroyed, light, which is the manifestation, stops, but the electricity continues to exist in an unmanifest form. In the same way, even when the matter shariratrayam collapse, Atma, the consciousness principle, continues to survive. Therefore, Atma nityaha. Atma nityaha. If you want to put the very same thing in a scientific language, the scientists point out that the universe is four-dimensional and three are spatial dimension. Spatial dimension, And the fourth one is called time dimension. From this, we come to know that time is the property or the fourth dimension of the material universe. Time is the property of the material universe, and consciousness being non-material, it doesn't have the property of time also. It is beyond time, unconditioned by time, unlocatable time-wise. In simple language, nityaha or kalatitaha. Sandranandavabodhatmakam anupamidam kala deshavadhibhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigama shata sahasrena nirbhasyamanam. Kala atitaha nityaha. Atma nityaha. Etrayache nalache. Chaitanya swarupaha swatantraha nirgunaha nityaha. Then the fifth, aru sholapara. 6 I am going to say for the time being. And if you all survive as students, because if I merely say if you all survive, we all survive as students, we will learn more about the Atma. So the next one is, time and space are closely interconnected. And therefore, Atma is not bound by time. It is invariably not restrained by, not conditioned by, not circumscribed by space also. And therefore, sarva gataha. So it is not located in the Shariratrayam. It is behind the Shariratrayam also. Also போட்டுக்கணும். It is not behind the Shariratrayam only. It is behind the Shariratrayam also. Just as the electricity is not behind this small bulb only. In fact, one electricity is behind all the bulbs. Not only behind all the bulbs, in between also it is there. But you don't see because there is no bulb. And similarly, Atma Sarvagataha or Sarvavyapi, it is behind all the Shariratrayam. So bodies are many and of different shapes also, like small bulb and big bulb. We have got a small Shariratrayam, that is ant Shariratrayam. And elephant, chinna ant, peri ant, elephant. So behind the ant also and the elephant also, there is Atma. Atma Sarvagataha. Last one more we will see and conclude this topic. If Atma is one consciousness principle behind all the bodies, Atma has to be only one, even though bodies are many. So Atma Ekaha, Atma Advaitaha, Advitiyaha, non-dual. So this Atma is the fourth factor in the personality of every individual. And interestingly enough, lot of scientific study is going on in the field of consciousness. Consciousness is the most mysterious principle, and studies are done, and people are saying different things. And there are some scientists who have made statements which are very, very close to Vedantic teaching. Just for your appreciation, I'll just read one or two passages just to show that science also is coming closer. Just a few scientists I will read, excuse me. There is one great scientist, Erwin Schrödinger. He says, consciousness is never experienced in the plural, only in the singular, of which the plural is unknown. There is only one thing, and that is what seems to be a plurality, and it is merely a series of different aspects of this one thing produced by deception. The Indian Maya. Avare Maya sollivitar. The Maya Indian pannivitar avar. We say Maya is American also. Anyway, Indian Maya. Erwin Schrödinger. Then Max Planck, another well-known scientist, he asked, do you think that consciousness can be explained in terms of matter and its law? Consciousness I regard as fundamental. I regard matter, he goes one step further, I regard matter as derivative of consciousness. Gaudapada Garigaki better. I regard matter as derivative of consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulate consciousness. Max Planck. One more I will read. Professor George Wald, another Nobel laureate. Though consciousness is the essential condition of all science, science cannot deal with it. Consciousness itself lies outside the parameters of space and time. Consciousness itself, Upanishad mari irukku parunga. Consciousness itself lies, properly understand, lies outside the parameters of space and time that would make it accessible to science. That realization carries an enormous consequence. Consciousness cannot be located, but more, it has no location. Like that, more and more people are, and unfortunately, we have to validate Vedanta through these people. Doesn't matter because people respect science, I said. This is Atma. Now we will go to the next topic regarding Atma. Now, since this non-material consciousness is called Atma, the material Shariratrayam is called Anatma. Shariratrayam is called Anatma. It is material in nature, and the non-material consciousness is called Atma. And the first step in Vedantic study is Atma Anatma Vivekaha. Understanding that there are three factors within Anatma range and one factor known as Atma, and I, the individual, am a mixture of the material Anatma and non-material Atma, time-space bound Anatma and time-space beyond Atma. So, learning this is the first lesson of Vedanta. Now, for further appreciation of Vedanta, we have to go through some exercise, some sadhana or some discipline for going further into the teaching. What is that? The word Atma literally means self, I said. And self means what? I. Self means what? I. When you want to draw money from the bank for yourself, what do you write? Self. Self na nartha, nan nartha. And naturally, the word Anatma means what? If Atma means self, Anatma means non-self. And by using this expression, Atma and Anatma, what the scripture wants us to do is that we should train ourselves. We should train ourselves to claim the Atma as myself. New training. We should train ourselves to claim Atma as myself, because the word Atma means what? Self. And also the Upanishad or Vedanta teaches that we should gradually train to renounce our identification with the material, perishable, incidental, anatma aspect. So, disidentify from anatma and learn to identify with Atma. In Sanskrit, anatma abhimana tyagaha, atma abhimana nishtha. So this is a new training to be practiced by Vedantic seeker. In fact, all Vedantic sadhanas are meant for this switchover of identification. If somebody asks for your biodata, என்ன சொல்றோம்? Date of birth, date of death, சொல்ல மாட்டோம். Date of birth, date of graduation, date of marriage, date of first childbirth, and then age, all the other things. In fact, our entire biodata is Shariratrayam oriented biodata. Shariratraya pradhana biodata. And keep this biodata for worldly transactions, but within yourselves a transformation should take place. And what is that? The regular biodata is only for the sake of the world. My real biodata is what? ஆறு ஞாபகம் வச்சுங்கோ. அகம் சைதன்ய ஸ்வரூபஹா, அகம் ஸ்வதந்திரஹா, அகம் நிர்குணஹா, அகம் நித்யஹா, அகம் சர்வகதஹ. அகம்னா நான் அர்த்தம். அகம் சர்வகதஹ, அகம் ஏகஹா. So this claiming of my real biodata is claiming my birthright. Isn't it? Tilakar தானே சொன்னார், Swaraj is my birthright, I will claim it. Similarly, these biodata are my birthright and I should learn to claim. And only as I claim this, further Vedantic teaching will penetrate. Which means further Vedantic teaching is there. This is not over. In fact, this is the first lesson. And now the question is, how can I train myself for that? How can I train? For this training, the scriptures give a method or upaya. An upaya is given for assisting this training, which is called Drik Drishya Viveka. Drik Drishya Viveka is the methodology of training the mind to disown or disclaim the material anatma. You can use the material anatma, but claim the non-material atma. We don't say you should not use a scooter. We only say that you do not say, I am the scooter. Difference irukko? I use the scooter and I am the scooter. வித்தியாசம் இருக்கு நினைக்கிறேன். And what is this method? This method involves application of two important laws, fundamental laws of Vedanta. LAWS, laws. Okay, LOSS illa. Fundamental laws, theorems of Vedanta. What is that? I am different from whatever I experience. I am different from whatever I experience. This is the law number 1. You know the logic behind it. Whatever I experience is experienced object. I, the experiencer, am the subject, and therefore I, the experiencer subject, am different from whatever is the experienced object. Law number 1. So I experience a fan. Thank God I am not fan. I experience a donkey, and thank God I am not one. I experience the entire world, and I am not that. Extending this, if the world that I experience is not me, extending this principle, I experience my body, and I experience my mind, and therefore the body, mind also are the object of my experience. Therefore, I am the experiencer of Shariratrayam. So, Shariratrayam is the object of my experience, and I am the subject behind the experienced object. I am ever the observer, never the observed. Law number 1. And the second law to be used is this. I, the experiencer, am free from the attributes of the experienced objects. I, the experiencer, am free from the attributes of the experienced objects, and in fact, all the attributes I experience belong either to the experienced world, the experienced body, or the experienced mind. Therefore, all known attributes belong to known material anatma. All known attributes belong to known material anatma. Then what is Atma? I am the knower of the attributes, and therefore free from all these known attributes. Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham nacha shrotra dikve nacha grana netre nacha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayuhu chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. So thus, By applying these two laws, I am different from whatever I experience. I am free from the attributes of the objects I experience. And therefore, I am Chaitanya Swarupaha, Nirgunaha, Swatantraha, Nityaha, Sarvagataha, Ekaha, Atma, Asmi. Oru varam practice பண்ணுங்க. 1 week you practice. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.